He was fined just for fishing on the lake he loved. The HOA thought they could bully him into silence. But what happened next? No one in the neighborhood could believe it when he bought the entire lake and banned them all. For Marcus Green, the lake wasn't just water, it was peace. Every morning before sunrise, he'd cast his line into the still waters, listening to the quiet ripples as the world slowly woke up. Fishing wasn't a hobby, it was therapy, a connection to his late father who had taught him the skill when he was a boy. The lake had been part of Marcus's life since he bought his modest home on the edge of the community. It was the reason he chose that property, the view, the calm, the sense of freedom. But what Marcus saw as a blessing, the HOA saw as an opportunity for control. It started with whispers at meetings. Board members complained about him taking advantage of the lake. They claimed fishing lines were dangerous, that he was disturbing the peace even though Marcus was always quiet and respectful. Then one afternoon, Marcus found a letter taped to his door. The HOA had fined him $500 for unauthorized use of community property. The message was clear: stop fishing or pay the price. Marcus was stunned. He paid dues like everyone else. The lake was meant for the community, and yet he was singled out, fined and harassed, all for casting a fishing line in the water he thought was partly his. Marcus attended the next HOA meeting, documents in hand, ready to defend himself. He argued calmly, pointing out that the bylaws allowed fishing. But Karen, the HOA president, with her sharp tongue and sharper glare, cut him off. "You're lowering the value of this neighborhood," she snapped. "If you want to fish, go somewhere else." The room fell silent. Neighbors avoided his gaze. And Marcus realized this wasn't about fishing. It was about power, about humiliation, about pushing him out. But Marcus wasn't a man who backed down. If they wanted a fight, they had no idea who they were dealing with. Marcus didn't argue further. He didn't storm out. He simply left, went home, and began making calls. Because while the HOA controlled the neighborhood, they didn't own the lake. That privilege belonged to a private landowner who had inherited it decades earlier and lived 2 towns over. Marcus did his research, and to his surprise, the owner was tired of managing the lake, tired of dealing with permits, taxes, and the occasional complaint from the HOA. All it took was one conversation, and Marcus saw his opportunity. Within months, the paperwork was complete. Marcus signed the dotted line, transferred the funds, and became the sole owner of the lake that had defined his mornings. The HOA didn't even realize what was happening until it was too late. The following weekend, the HOA gathered at the lake for their usual event. Families brought coolers, kids played near the water, and Karen strutted proudly along the shoreline. But then a man in a crisp shirt appeared, nailing a large wooden sign into the ground. The words painted across it stopped everyone in there. "Tracks, private property, no trespassing, by order of owner, Marcus Green." The crowd gasped. Karen stormed up, demanding answers. "You can't do this. This lake belongs to the neighborhood." Marcus didn't flinch. He pulled out the deed, stamped and sealed. "Not anymore," he said. "You fined me for fishing. Now none of you will fish here again." The silence that followed was heavier than the lake itself. Karen's face turned crimson. She shouted, threatened lawsuits, tried to rally the crowd, but one by one neighbors drifted away, muttering to themselves. They had mocked Marcus, ignored his pleas, and now they were paying the price. From that day forward, the lake was his, only his. The HOA could hold as many meetings as they wanted, but the water, the jewel of their neighborhood, was gone. Their power vanished the moment Marcus took control. But Marcus wasn't cruel. He didn't want revenge on the families or the children. He wanted respect, so he allowed limited access, but only on his terms. Anyone who wanted to use the lake had to apply directly to him, pay a fee, and follow his rules. And every dollar went into a foundation in his father's name, supporting underprivileged kids who wanted to learn how to fish. The HOA, once so proud and powerful, was reduced to begging for permission from the man they had tried to crush. Karen, who had laughed at Marcus in front of everyone, resigned in disgrace months later. The same neighbors who had once turned away now shook his hand, ashamed of how they had treated him. This story isn't just about fishing or a lake or even an HOA. It's about dignity, about standing up when others try to strip away your peace. Marcus turned humiliation into empowerment, transforming a $500 fine into ownership of the very thing they tried to deny him. The HOA wanted him gone. Instead, he became the landlord of their most precious treasure. So the next time someone tries to take away what you love, remember, Marcus, sometimes the best revenge is ownership.